Good morning, guys. I am Vasavi Priya, pursuing my B.Tech in Vasreddy Venkatadri Institute of Technology in Computer Science and Engineering. Today, in this lecture, I am going to introduce PHP. Let's have a look about what are the topics we are going to discuss in this lecture. What is a scripting language? Difference between a scripting language and programming language. Types of scripting language. What is PHP? Features of PHP. PHP syntax. PHP commands. PHP data types. And finally, PHP variable. As PHP is a scripting language, let's see first what is a scripting language and under which type of scripting language the PHP is, and then move on to the PHP. First, let's see what is a scripting language. A scripting language consists of a series of commands, and these commands are called as scripts. And these scripts, without the need of compilation, they will be converted into the mission code with the help of an interpreter and uses the output. See, these commands or else the scripts are being converted into the mission code by interpreter. That means that without compilation, directly the scripts are converted into the mission code with the help of the interpreter and uses the output. This is how I have been described here. A scripting language is a computer programming language that provides instructions called scripts. As I said before, the scripting language provides some instructions and they are called as scripts. And a script is a series of commands that can be executed without the need for compiling. During runtime, the interpreter converts these instructions into a readable mission code that a processor can execute. This is what a scripting language contains: a series of commands, and they are called as scripts, and they can be converted into the mission code which the processor can execute with the help of an interpreter and uses the output. I think you have got a little bit idea about what is a scripting language. Now let's see how a scripting language differ from a programming language so that you can get more in detail and understand about the scripting language. The first and major difference between a scripting language and a programming language I have shown here. The programming language needs a compiler, means instructions to be converted into the binary code or the mission code, it needs a compiler. Whereas in scripting languages, it needs an interpreter to convert these instructions into the binary code or the mission code. Here, let's see what is a compiler first. Here, all these instructions at a time are converted into the binary code or the mission code. Whereas in interpreter, each instruction at a time is converted into the mission code, each instruction. Whereas here, the total all the instructions at a time are converted into the mission code. That is the major difference between a compiler and an interpreter. In the same way, the scripting language uses the interpreter, whereas the programming languages uses the compiler in order to produce the mission codes which can be executed by the processor. Here, the programming language, the source code is compiled and then converted. Total source code is converted into the mission code and uses the output. Whereas in scripting language, the source code is interpreted directly into the mission code and uses the output. This is the first and major difference between the scripting language and a programming language. Now, let's see few more differences between a scripting language and a programming language. As I said before, the code in scripting language is executed without compiling. But in programming language, only after compilation, the code will be executed. Without compilation, the code will be executed in scripting language. Here, in scripting language provide instructions for a program that already exists, whereas a programming language allows you to create a new program. The second difference, let me give a briefly, let me explain it briefly so that you can get a clear idea. In programming language, we are writing a program. And for that program, we provide some more instructions in scripting language. Mainly, it is used in web technology, web applications. In web applications, we are writing the main program using the programming language, and for that, for user interface, like for user interaction with that web application, we use some user interfaces. We develop some user interfaces, and to communicate with the server, and for that web application to communicate with the server, we require some of the instructions, and these instructions given to that program written in programming language using the scripting language. This programming language creates a program, and for that program we are providing some more instructions in the scripting language. That's about the second difference. And the third difference is scripting language is usually embedded into other software environments. That means scripting languages can be embedded or written inside other scripting languages also, but programming languages can never be written like a scripting language. They are totally independent with each other. One programming language cannot be written in other programming language. So as we see here, doesn't need to be embedded into other languages. It is totally independent. Whereas scripting languages, they will be embedded into other software environments like other scripting languages also. Next, the fourth difference is scripting languages are easy for the beginners. That means it is syntax wise, or it is easy for the beginners to understand and learn, whereas the programming languages are slight difficult for the beginners to write and understand that code. So for the beginners, first they can move on to the scripting language, then the programming language, because it is quite easy to learn. I have mentioned here why while all scripting languages are programming languages, not all programming languages are scripting language. As scripting language is written for all the programming languages, means a scripting language is a part of a programming language. Hence, the all the scripting languages comes under a programming language, while all the programming languages are not the scripting languages. That's what all scripting languages are programming languages, but all programming languages are not scripting languages, because scripting language is a part that is written to the programming languages. This is about the difference between a scripting language and a programming language. Now let's move on to some of the examples in programming language and scripting language. Here in programming language, we can see some of the examples: C Sharp, TypeScript, C++, and Go. Whereas in scripting language, PHP, JS, Python, Rust. See, today our topic is PHP, and here the PHP comes under the scripting language. Next, we need to see under which type of scripting language the PHP is. So first let's discuss how many types of scripting languages are there. There are two types of scripting languages: client-side scripting and server-side scripting. Here you can see a client computer and a server. Here client-side scripting languages are written on the client side, whereas the server-side scripting languages are written on the server side. Here, the client sends a request to the server, and the server processes that request and sends the respective or corresponding response to the client. Here, let me give a simple example. Most of us have a use daily browsers, right? We let us consider we are the clients, and we are giving some request to the browser, and it will process and use the corresponding response to us. How can this all be done with the help with the HTTP, in the form of HTTP request and HTTP responses? Here we can see a client can send a request in the form of a HTTP request to the server. The server will process it using the server-side languages and use the response to the client in the form of HTTP response. This is how a client and server sends a client send a request to the server, and server sends response to the client. At the client side, we need to write the client side scripting language, whereas in the server side, we need to write the server side scripting language. At the client side, the client side scripting languages are useful to send for the user interface. That means that user can interact with that computer, with his computer, to send a request to the server using the client side scripting languages, and the server will process it and sends the response using server side scripting languages. This is all about client and server side scripting languages. Let's see in detail. As I said before, the client side scripting languages run on the client side, which means they can run on their web browser, whereas a server side scripting language run on the web server. Client sends a request to the server, and the server sends a request to the process that request and sends the response through HTTP. What is meant by HTTP? Hypertext stands for Protocol Secure. Have you ever observed in when we open a browser for a website, the URL always starts with HTTPS. That means that with that the client and the server can communicate. Like client can send the request in the form of a HTTP request, and the server can send the response through uh, HTTP or response. This is about the client and the server request and response. And the client side scripting languages focuses mainly on the user interfaces. User interface means it is a graphical GUI, graphical user interface, so that more communicately, more easily the user can communicate with that computer or his personal computer, whereas the server side focuses on faster processing, access to data, and resolving errors. That means I have said you before, the server side scripting languages are used for the processing of the data. I mean processing of the request which has been sent by the client, and access the data and resolving errors. Here, the client side, here are the some examples like HTML, CSS, JavaScript. On the server side, we are having some of the scripting languages: Perl, PHP, Ruby, Node.js, ASP.NET. Here, our topic PHP comes under the server side scripting language. Now let's see what is PHP. PHP is abbreviated as Hypertext Preprocessor. As we've seen before, PHP is a server-side scripting language. Actually, it was developed by Rasmus Ledov, a member of Apache Group, in 1994, and it was released into market in 1995. Initially, he used to have a website, personal website. Hence, he wanted to track all the people who are visiting his website. So to track all the people who are visiting his website, he developed this PHP, and it was initially called as personal homepage. Initially, PHP is called personal homepage, but later it was renamed as hypertext preprocessor. Present PHP is called as hypertext preprocessor. As this is all about the history of PHP. Now let's see why PHP is embedded into HTML code. As we seen, PHP is a scripting language. As I said, in scripting languages and programming languages differences, scripting languages can be embedded into other software environments. Same, the PHP as a scripting language, it can be embedded into HTML codes. It can also contain text, HTML, CSS, JavaScripts, and PHP codes as well. Next, PHP is a open source and free. That means that it is available on the web and you can freely download it by using the official website. www.php.net is the official website where you can download the PHP. The latest version of PHP is 8.2. This PHP has been used on various applications. Over 20 million websites and applications has been developed using PHP scripting language. Some of the examples are listed here: Facebook, Yahoo, Wikipedia, etc. Next, see, when you're naming a file, I mean when you're saving a file like a C programming file, then you will save the file name with the extension .c. In the same way, the PHP files need to be saved with the extension .php. This is necessary while you're saving the files of PHP files. We need to add the extension to the file name .php. See, as I said, PHP is a server-side scripting language. The server interprets the PHP code, outputs the result as the HTML code to the web browser. The PHP, that means PHP is a scripting language. It need not to be compiled. It will be only interpreted by the interpreter uh, interpreter at the server, and use the output to the web browsers. PHP supports both procedural as well as object-oriented programming. Next, let's move on to the features of PHP. I have listed here all the features of PHP. Let's discuss each in detail. Coming to performance, the scripts. PHP is a scripting language, right? It contains some of the scripts, and these scripts can be executed very fast when compared to the other scripts written in other scripting language. Why PHP scripts can be executed fast? Because PHP uses some of its own memory in order to process the request, in order to process the data. Hence, it can execute the scripts very fast, and this will increase the performance. Hence, this is why performance is under the feature of PHP. Whereas coming to open source, as I said before, PHP is a open source open source, and it is available on the net. It is free of cost. You can download it. I have mentioned the official website for it. You can download it. Next, familiarity with syntax. PHP syntax is very easy to learn. As scripting languages are easy for the beginners to learn, the syntax of PHP is also quite simple, and you can easily learn it. Whereas coming to platform independency. Coming to platform independency, Coming to platform independency, what we have discussed: performance, open source, familiarity with syntax. Now we are discussing platform independency. The PHP is a platform independent scripting language. That means the scripts which are written on the scripts of the PHP can be executed on any operating system like Windows, Mac, Linux, etc. Hence, the PHP is a platform independent language. Next, database support. PHP provides a great support for almost all the databases available. Like few examples of databases are MySQL, ODBC, etc. For almost all the databases, the PHP provides the support. Hence, the database, this is about the database support provided by the PHP. Next, error reporting. The PHP has predefined variables, predefined constants, not variables, constants like E underscore error, E underscore warning. These predefined error constants will be able to notice the errors in the PHP code. Hence, these error reporting constants are very helpful, which are predefined in the PHP in order to notice the errors. Next, embedded. PHP is embedded in HTML code. As I said before, PHP is a scripting language. It can be embedded into other software environment. In the same way, PHP has been embedded into HTML codes. Next, control. PHP has a control almost about overall websites. Almost all the websites can be controlled by PHP and you can make changes whenever you want. Loosely typed language. PHP is a loosely typed language. Why? Because without declaring the data type of the variable. See, in some of the programming languages like C, Java, you need to declare the data type of the variable in order to use that variable. But in PHP, you need it is loosely typed. That means without defining the data type of that variable, you can use that variable. You can assign a value to that variable. During the runtime, based on the value assigned to that variable, the PHP will consider which type of data type is that variable. So by this, we can say that PHP is a loosely typed language. Next, security. You know, PHP is a highly secure language. It has multiple layers of security from any harmful attacks. Hence, this is the security that is provided by the PHP language. Next, helpful PHP community. PHP has a large community of developers. They will provide updates on documentations, online text, frequently asked questions, etc. They will be this community of developers will provide all the required documentations based on PHP. Next, web server support. The PHP will support almost all the local servers like Microsoft, IIS, next Apache, etc. Almost all the local servers will be supported by the PHP. This is all about the features of PHP. We have seen each of them in detail. Now let's move on to syntax of PHP. Now PHP tags starts with has a PHP syntax has a opening tag and a closing tag. Without these tags, you cannot write a PHP code. Always the PHP code should be in between the opening tag and the closing tag. Here the opening tag starts with less than symbol followed by the question mark and the PHP word, and the closing tag should contain the question mark and ended by the greater than symbol. This is the PHP opening tag, and this is here we need to write the PHP code and close the tag. Here the PHP statements should end with the semicolon. Here whatever the code you write, each and every statement must end with a semicolon in PHP. PHP is a case sensitive language. See here where is a variable, and here all the characters are in uppercase, whereas here all the characters are in lowercase. So here this where is totally different from this where with lowercase characters. Both are not same. They are different and they are considered as a different variables in PHP. This is about the syntax of PHP, opening tags and closing tags. Now let's move on to comments in PHP. First of all, what is a comment? Comment is same as we use in all the programming languages too. It is not executed by any compiler or interpreter. It is not executed. In the code, if there is a comment, it is not executed. It is just for the person who is looking at the code for his readability. For his better understanding, we add comments in the code of the code or program. The comments will never be executed. Let's see at the last whether a comment will be executed in PHP or not. I will show it. For single line comments, we use double hash or two forward slashes, whereas in multi-line comments, we use a forward slash star and few lines, and then we need to end it with a star and forward slash. This is how we represent a single line comments in PHP, and multi-line comments are written as shown here. Next, let's move on to PHP data types. I said PHP is a loosely typed language. As I said before, in the features of PHP. PHP variables without defining the data type, they can be used. Based on the value assigned to that variable, the PHP will consider its data type. Hence, in PHP, we are only having some of the data types implicitly. Explicit defining data type is not there in PHP. Implicitly supported data types are integers, floating point numbers, character string, and boolean. Integers are nothing but, as we know, they are the whole numbers as well as the negative integers. Few of the examples are -3, 0, 69, 1, 2, 5, -1, -2, etc. Floating point numbers are the decimal numbers. Example 3.14. These floating point numbers are also called as double or real numbers. Here, double are real numbers. This is about the integer uh, based on the whether your personal computer is 32-bit or a 64-bit. The maximum and minimum ranges of these integers and floating point numbers varies. Means integers and floating point numbers are platform dependent. Based on your whether your machine is a 32-bit or 64-bit, they will change their maximum and minimum ranges. Next, character string. You know what is as we know, a string is a sequence of characters. uh, any of the example here I have given hello world, it is a string, hence it is considered as a character string in PHP. As boolean, they are true or false. Yeah, in almost all the languages, the boolean has only two types, true or false. This is about the data types in PHP. Now let's move on to the PHP variables. First, let's know what is a variable. Variable, see, sometimes you want to store some data, right? So to store some data, you need some memory location. And for that memory location, we are giving some name. And that name is nothing but a variable. Here, I have given here, a variable is a name given to a memory location that stores data at runtime. This is this is what is meant by a variable. Coming to the rules in the for the variables in PHP, all the variable names must start with a dollar sign. In PHP, all the variable names must start with a dollar sign and followed by the variable name. As I said before, variable names are case sensitive. That means here my variable is with lowercase, whereas here my variable characters are in uppercase. In PHP considers these both variables differently. They are not same in PHP. Next, when you start immediately after a dollar sign with a number rather than a character in the variable name, it is an illegal startup. Means it is not a legal variable name. To have a legal variable name, we need to start only after the dollar sign, only we need to have a character, I mean letter. Here, in order to combine two strings in the variable name, we need to use only underscore. We should not use any of the dollar or minus signs, commas in order to combine this string. First is a string and name is a string. In order to combine this, we need to use a underscore only an underscore symbol in PHP variables. These are the rules in of the variables used in PHP. Now let's see how we are assigning a value to the variable name. This is we are starting with a dollar sign and followed by the variable name, and this full is considered as a variable name, and we are assigning a value to it. And this is an expression of the statement where we need to how we are assigning a values to the variables in the PHP. Now, let's see how to print a statement in PHP. Here, as I said before, here we need to have a opening tag in PHP and then followed by the PHP word. This is a opening tag in PHP and we need to close it by the closing tag. And middle here the PHP code goes. Here you can see an echo function or the command. Only in PHP, in order to print something to the browser, in the browser, or to print anything, we need to use only echo command or the function. And this echo command is very useful in order to print a statement in the PHP. Here you can see hello world is printed using the echo statement, echo command. This is how we print a statement in PHP. Now let's run a program and see how does we and how we can print a statements in PHP. See, open Notepad, Notepad. Let me increase the font. First, let me open the tag for the PHP less than symbol followed by the question mark and the PHP word, and here the PHP code. We need to write the PHP code here and we need to close the tag. This is how we need to write the PHP code. This is a syntax we have seen just before. Let me write using the echo command in order to print echo hello world, hello world, and we need to end it with a semicolon. Now I'm saving this PHP file. Here I'm saving it in PHP program folder as first PHP. Okay, I already have a file PHP1. Okay, my PHP program, my PHP program dot PHP. I'm saving it in PHP program files. I'm saving it. I am using XAMPP in order to run this PHP code. Here I'm starting the Apache in order to run this PHP code. As we seen before, the PHP supports almost all the servers. In one of the server is Apache. Now open any of your favorite browser and type localhost slash PHP program. Here I have saved before the PHP file in PHP program prog folder. Hence we need to open that folder. Here you can see some of the PHP files. Before we have saved the file with my PHP program. I'm going to open it. Here we can see the output hello world. This is because of the echo command. We can print the string in the browser. Now let's have a comment. I'm also printing other statement. Hello PHP. Hello PHP. And I am keeping it in commands. Here in PHP, as we seen before, we use 2 forward slashes in order to make a comment in PHP, and I am saving this and reload. See, we can see only hello world. We cannot see hello PHP because I have made it a comment. Comments are not executed in PHP. They are only for our readability. Next, let's see how to declare a variable. Starts with a dollar sign and the variable name here I am giving as text. Hi, followed by the semicolon, and I need to print this text using the echo command. I'm saving it and I am, let's see in the edge, I'm reloading it. Just a minute. Echo text. Okay. In order to print also in echo, we need, I forgot the dollar sign. Okay, it's okay. Here let's see, the text is one of the variable name. I have assigned hi to it, and using the echo command I have printed the text to the browser. See hello world and hi. This is how we declare variables in PH using PHP. Let's see other example. Hello PHP. I am saving it and I'm reloading this page. You can see hello world, hi PHP. Hello world, hi PHP. This is how we use the echo statement, and we write the PHP code under the PHP tags. We have seen one of the example. This is all about introduction to PHP. We have discussed what is a scripting language, difference between a scripting language and a programming language, types of scripting language, what is PHP, features of PHP, PHP syntax, PHP commands, data types in PHP, PHP variables. We have covered all the topics, and thank you. And we have also covered printing statements in PHP. Thank you.